Are you bringing a new product to market or looking to reduce your manufacturing costs and improve the quality at the same time? The manufacturing processes and materials you choose to produce a product can greatly impact your profitability and your reputation for quality. In this podcast, we're going to explore zinc die casting and what benefits it brings to the table. Today on Small Business Talks. Small businesses and manufacturers constantly look to increase productivity, reduce costs, or improve the quality of their products. Would zinc die casting offer any benefits? Today, we're talking with Dave Magner from DECO Products to discuss just that. Good afternoon, Dave. Welcome to the program.
Yeah. Thanks, Neil, for having me.
Glad to have you on board. Hey, Dave, does zinc die casting offer an alternative solution to manufacturers?
Yes, Neil. Yeah, zinc die casting as a material can be very advantageous. As a former design engineer and engineering manager for over 20 years, I had to evaluate different designs. And the first key step is to look at the material choice. And so when you're considering whether it's zinc or other materials, you have to understand what the design requirements are and then the cost impact. And there's certain situations where zinc is certainly advantageous.
So what benefits would zinc die casting offer specifically like in part design or in the manufacturing of it? What are some of those areas that you're talking about?
Yeah, the nature of zinc is that when it's melted, it's very fluid, almost like water. And so that allows the final product to have a net shape, which is a shape that is a functional part without a lot of secondary operations or machining. So as a designer, you can design in very tight corners. You can design in very thin wall conditions with great options for design flexibility. Zinc is also a very strong material compared to a lot of other moldable materials like plastic or aluminum. And so as a designer, you want that flexibility to meet those critical technical specifications. From there, it's all about cost. Zinc, because it has a lower melting temperature, takes less energy to melt it down. It's processed quicker in that it solidifies quicker than other materials. And actually, the tool life is very good. It's 10 times more tool life in a zinc die cast part than, for example, an aluminum die cast part. And so when you have to pay for 10 tools, that gets to be very expensive in the total life cycle cost of a part.
Interesting. What types of products or maybe specifically parts benefit the most from being cast with zinc? Are there like common things that this is a really, really good material and process for certain types of products? Is there anything you can kind of come up with on that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, zinc is used in a lot of different industries. One real common industry is parts that carry fluid, whether it's liquid or gaseous, because the part itself is very dense and can easily add features like external threads or internal threads. Additionally, often zinc is I'll say a higher grade material and very pleasing to the end user. Whether it's a plated part or powder coated part, it has a lot of density to it. And whether it's a door handle for an egress door, ingress door, window, the material zinc just exudes a better experience for the end user and often a higher price point.
Now I'm going to ask you to kind of jump out here, and I'm going to ask you, there's a lot of products obviously people make with other materials and other processes. They either machine them out of a solid chunk of metal, or they use different types of materials. Are there any products that you see that could really benefit by switching to using zinc over their existing materials?
Well, Usually it's all about the initial design and the requirements involved. Sometimes there's some conversions that happen. Usually it's a strength issue. Maybe plastic's not strong enough, either in ultimate tensile strength or fatigue strength. And zinc is a common upgrade for performance in that regard. Beyond that, there are often needs to cut costs, maybe on a steel stamping that's welded. And you take a couple parts welded together, and that may make sense when the volume is relatively low. But as a part gets higher usage, then the justification of a zinc die cast tool makes a lot of sense, because you eliminate the process of joining multiple parts or removing secondary operations, because you put those features right in the tool, and that initial investment's paid back over time very, very quickly.
I'll start with what are some of the more commonly known products that would benefit by using zinc. And then I'd like you to elaborate on what other kind of products that maybe people don't realize it's an alternative to be. What other types of parts or products would benefit by using zinc die casting?
Yeah, several industries really and several applications align really well with zinc. Some of those might relate to parts like fittings, that joining components for the transportation of different fluid. It could be liquid, it could be gaseous. Because zinc is very dense, it provides a nice conduit for the material, but also things like external threads can be cast right in. So again, you can avoid that secondary operation. And often that type of joining feature has to be adapted to, something else. It could be a valving product. So that's a very key consideration. And really, zinc is great in a lot of industries. It's stronger than plastic. Often when plastic isn't suitable, zinc's a great, cast molded product that can have similar features, but stronger. And really it comes down to cost. It comes down to appearance. Zinc is a very, I'll say, pleasing material. It can be finished with a powder coat or plating. A lot of parts can be very decorative in nature because it provides a great substrate for other types of finishes, whether it's decorative or just finishes for increased corrosion protection, for example.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit and kind of go more into the whole idea of I'm a manufacturer, and there's going to be a lot of manufacturers listening. We've looked at our audience. We see as a lot of business owners, there's a lot of manufacturers. And I think the first thing in our mind is, well, how do I even go about doing this? Number one, what should I look for? How do I go about approaching this? How do I start a discussion with a zinc die caster? And I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, good question. I mean, at DECO Products, we concentrate on being an industry leader on the zinc die casting process. We do arguably more zinc under one roof. We've got more machines. We have over 100 zinc die cast machines. And we've got as much engineering expertise as anybody in North America. And so part of our mission in life is not just to produce parts. It's to help the industry, it's to help customers, to answer questions, whether it's steering them in the right direction, regardless of what the material should be. Often a part that is very high volume, it is really well suited for zinc. Zinc's tooling life is very long in comparison with a lot of other materials. For example, a zinc tool will generally last a million shots. Comparatively, an aluminum die cast tool will only last 100,000 shots. So you can see there's a big advantage to using zinc in that regard. You'd have to buy 10 tools, and they're very expensive at times in aluminum just to get the same long-term production capacity out of a zinc tool. And so, size matters as well. If it's a bigger part, then zinc gets to be pretty heavy. And so you might want to look at plastic or aluminum, but for, parts under a pound, parts that, zinc parts can be, as much as 24 inches long, but generally when they're, 4 inches, or less in a given dimension, they're going to be pretty well suited for zinc. And especially when you consider the tool life involved and the other advantages as far as cost go.
Let's say I'm a manufacturer or I'm a company and I'm about to make a part. You offer the ability to also help with the design process, correct? I mean, in other words, do I have to go find a designer and come up with all the drawings, and how do I do that? Or can I just contact you directly and you work with people on that avenue?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, because we want to, help the industry. Part of our role is to help out, whether it's supplying great information on our website, in a general sense, but also having means to specifically ask those direct questions with an expert here at DECO. And we can do that in multiple ways. It could be emails, it could be telephone calls, we can do webinars, or we can go, come on site. I mean, we can have instructional sessions that we call lunch and learns, where we bring in a bunch of folks in a larger audience setting, or we're happy to talk about things one-on-one, very part specific. And so yeah, we feel like ourselves, with the expertise that we have in DECO's history, being around since 1960, we provide that service to the rest of the folks in the industry.
Excellent. One of the things I'd like is you obviously have the expertise. I'd like you to share your opinions or your ideas on what should somebody look for when they're looking for a zinc die casting company. What are some of the things they should be looking out for? What are some of the questions they should ask to really make sure they're choosing the right company?
Yes, really, it comes down to having the engineering expertise, both on the design side, quality side, process side. They should have operational expertise. To get the part designed right from the start is so important. If you make a mistake, if you take a shortcut on the front end, you'll be paying for it, literally for years on end, because again, that tool will last that long. Or you could design the part right or wrong, and if it's wrong, now the tool might have a lower life expectancy, or you might see quality issues, from the onset or later on in its life. And so getting it right from the start is so important. From that point, though, that's just the start of the process. You need to have a zinc die caster that can achieve key reliability. They need to have the capacity to deal with ups and downs in demand. And for example, with DECO Products, with over 100 die cast machines, we've got a lot of capacity to be the reliable made in the U.S. manufacturer that we are. We always want to tailor our schedule, our demands to the ups and downs of our customer demands. We generally have shorter lead times is always going to be key, but really it comes down to on-time delivery, reliable performance, whether on the operations side, the logistics side, and even to have the service to get your questions answered, whether it's engineering related, customer service related. But it's a total value proposition that's so important with any manufacturer, and that could be a zinc die caster or a plastic injection molder. But the name of the game, especially in today's world, is be able to be reliable, especially when things get stressful, especially when things overseas get troublesome and challenging. It's great to have a made in the USA manufacturer that can step up and really be a key source and partner.
One thing I always like to point out is I'm on your website right now, and one of the things I notice, and I always try to pull this out, is, and to me, because to me, as working with manufacturers, this has always been an important thing, is that you're ISO certified.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, I said, that's a certification. It's not just a nice logo. That actually means something.
Yeah.
Elaborate a little bit on that.
Oh, sure. Well, being ISO 9001 certified means your facility, your operations meets certain standardized requirements. The 9001 actually goes into the engineering and the design side of things as well. DECO Products is involved with a lot of different industries. We're involved with HVAC, fluid transport, different vehicles, automotive, military, furniture, window and door, and every customer is different. Every customer has certain basic requirements, and so many people align to ISO. And so, of course, customers want to understand, and they'll do their own audits. But right from day one, they know that a quality system's in place and it meets the requirements of ISO. So it gives everybody a lot of assurance that we're speaking the same language. We're have this similar mindset. All kind of prescribed to what the ISO documentation really dictates.
And that kind of leads to my next question, which is, again, on the website, you've been in business since 1960. That's a long term. That's impressive. And I always love to ask companies with some time behind them is, number one, how have you grown, since your beginnings? And then number two, kind of a follow-up on that would be, what would you attribute your success to? Well, and I say that for two reasons. One, to highlight your company, but then also as companies are looking for, well, how do I stand out? What's important to you, and what do you feel was something that helped you grow and helped you attain where you are today?
Yeah, well, we started, as a tool shop. We started as with limited resources in the zinc die casting area, and generally supporting more local industries. A lot of our history is in the window and door industry. Being in the northeast part of Iowa is a nice central location for a lot of key window and door manufacturers. You've got Pella Window, you've got Marvin, you got Larson, and several other key folks in the area, Anderson, and so they the industry really needed a product line offering, and so DECO developed the product line offering around window and door. And we were the main manufacturer for a lot of things like sash locks, 10, 20 years ago. And so that was a lot of our legacy history. Now since then, we've expanded a lot. We're certainly more nationwide and even global as far as our outreach in providing zinc die casting services. But key to our success, has been partly with our ownership group and our leadership there, been very stable, very supportive. We've been family owned, in multiple generations, and they've been, really key support of change and innovation. And that goes along with the equipment and the technology that we apply, but also, training our experts here in-house. Because when it's all said and done, the core team that we have here is special, and it's based on everybody's hard work and education, and really the support of each other. We've got a lot of engineering expertise, and that's academic related. We've got a mechanical engineer with their doctorate that does a lot of our mold flow analysis and some of the higher level work we do as far as continuous improvement. But then we've got an array of experts that are either worked up through experience or work, each certain academic accomplishments. But, when you add all up, it was over 400 cumulative years of engineering expertise here. And so that is important in how we support our customers and industry, but it's also important how we support ourselves. Those continuous improvements, those innovations all happen ultimately from the spark and the brain and the mindset of some of these innovative folks that we have here at DECO.
Dave, I can't thank you enough. Everything you've been talking about is fantastic. I mean, I really like this, and I hope everyone listening is going to be able to get some, gain some interest and knowledge out of that. I'm going to give you the last say. So is there any final thoughts you have or anything you'd like to throw in?
Well, getting back to, when zinc die casting makes sense. A lot of times as an engineer, you have to make the design and the financial considerations. And so there's certain features of zinc. It's strong. It's fluid, like we talked about, and so you can get the shape that you want. But then the other aspect is cost. It's gotta, there's gonna be comparisons being made on what material makes sense. And again, that's one of the first things you have to figure out when you're designing a part. And so zinc, is a material that can be cast net shape, and so you don't need those secondary operations. It's a material that's processed generally quicker than a lot of materials. And so you make more parts in a given amount of time. That's the nature of zinc. Has a lower melting temperature, so it solidifies and cools down much quicker than, say, aluminum does. And so you can get more parts done in an hour. And so when it makes sense is when it's the best cost. And like we also talked about, tool life is huge. When you have to buy 10 tools and those tools can cost $10, $20, $50,000, now you have a huge investment when you have to buy 10 of them to one zinc die cast part. So it's all about really the life cost of a part. It's not just, okay, what part is cheapest today. It's what the entire longevity of the value proposition is. And that goes along with logistics and shipping delays that might occur if parts are shipped overseas. Those considerations are often as problematic as any piece price consideration might be on the onset. And so, as an engineer, you have to consider those trade-offs. You need to consider really what is key in the life of the product. And then, from there, zinc certainly has its fit, and something that they don't teach a lot in colleges when they talk about material science. It's a lot of steel and polymer discussions. And so zinc's not always well known by the folks that are designing parts. And so that's where DECO can be a great resource to remind engineers when it makes sense to use zinc in the zinc die casting process.
Thank you. That's fantastic, and I think very informative. Because, like you said, it's to try and get this message out to people and let them hear more about that. These are things to take a look at, and even if it inspires somebody to take a look at it, that's our whole goal, is to try and get those things out there. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way of getting in touch with you?
Well, our websites are our key communication tools. That's decoprod.com, and that's a great way. From there, there's a multitude of avenues, whether it's emailing us, phone calls, setting up a meeting, whether it's webinar or in person. That's a great place. Again, it's at decoprod.com. is a great way to find us. Via Google zinc die casting, we're likely going to be one of the first names to see. And as we support the industry, and we even Google sees us as a nice prominent resource.
I'm also going to add the link to the website in the description below this podcast, so people can actually just click on it and be able to go there as well.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, great idea.
Dave, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and your expertise and sharing your knowledge with us.
Yes, thank you so much, Neil, for everything you're doing for the U.S. industries.